Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're jumping straight into the super fascinating and honestly sometimes really high-stakes world of drug interactions. We pop pills to heal, to sleep, or just to manage our everyday health, but we hardly ever think about the invisible biochemical battles that might be raging right under our skin. Let's get right into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by defining drug interactions, then we'll hit pharmacodynamics, take a close look at serotonin syndrome, switch over to pharmacokinetics, and finally wrap up with metabolism and enzymes.
Starting off with Section 1, Defining Drug Interactions.
So what exactly is a drug-drug interaction, or DDI? Well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a change in how a drug affects your body when you take it alongside another completely different drug. Basically, one chemical crashes into another and totally alters its intended effect. And this usually goes down through one of two main biological pathways, pharmacodynamic or pharmacokinetic.
When these collisions happen, you're generally looking at three primary outcomes. The drugs might cancel each other out and decrease in action. They might aggressively multiply and increase in action. Or, and this is the scary one, they might trigger totally new, dangerous adverse effects. Keep those three possibilities in the back of your mind as we go through some real-world examples.
Moving right along to Section 2, Pharmacodynamics. Let's look at an opposing interaction. On one side, you've got Ramelteon, a gentle, melatonin-like chemical that literally tells your brain it's time to sleep. Now, imagine taking that sleep aid and washing it down with a massive, jittery cup of coffee. Caffeine is doing the exact opposite. These two molecules end up playing a biological game of tug-of-war, actively fighting each other's intended actions right there on the factory floor of your body.
But hey, opposite actions aren't the only way things go sideways. Interactions also happen when two drugs are trying to do the exact same physiological thing. Take nitroglycerin, which is used for chest pain, and sildenafil, which you probably know as Viagra. Both of these are designed to relax vascular smooth muscle. When you combine them, they stack their effects. That causes a sudden, severe, and incredibly dangerous drop in blood pressure. It's the perfect example of how two rights can sometimes make a really dangerous wrong.
All right, Section 3, Serotonin Syndrome. Let's raise the stakes a bit.
When your serotonin receptors get dangerously hyperstimulated by certain drug combos, your body essentially hits the panic button. We're talking rapid-fire alarm bells. You get severe agitation, a racing heart rate, skyrocketing blood pressure, your pupils dilate, and you get these erratic muscle twitches. It is a complete systemic overload.
In the early stages of this overload, you'll see a fast progression. It usually starts with heavy sweating and confusion, and ramps up to shivering and intense muscle tremors, what we call hyperreflexia. Recognizing these clinical signs really drives home that this isn't just a mild side effect, It's a full-blown medical emergency triggered entirely by a chemical clash.
Let's zoom way in on the cellular crime scene. Think about the synaptic gap, right between the presynaptic and postsynaptic neurons. When a patient mixes drugs like SSRI antidepressants with MAOIs or even certain pain meds like meperidine, they absolutely flood this gap with way too much serotonin. All that serotonin completely overwhelms the postsynaptic receptors, leading straight to that severe hyperstimulation we see in serotonin syndrome.
Shifting gears now to Section 4, Pharmacokinetics.
The easiest way to think about the difference between these two pathways is this. If pharmacodynamics is the actual workers clashing on the factory floor, meaning what the drug does to the body, then pharmacokinetics is a total breakdown in the shipping, receiving, and processing of those workers. It's what your body does to the drug. These are dispositional interactions where one medication completely changes how another is absorbed, distributed, metabolized, or just cleared out of your system.
A pharmacokinetic DDI can fundamentally alter your body's total exposure to a drug over time. When tracking the area under the curve, or AUC, along with peak concentration, we can actually measure this happening. When two drugs don't mix well, those concentration levels dramatically spike or crash. It proves the drug is either building up to toxic levels in your bloodstream or getting flushed out way before it can even do its job.
For a really concrete example, consider the blood concentration of loratadine, which is a super common allergy med. Normally, it follows a standard predictable curve, but when you introduce the antibiotic erythromycin into the mix, wow, the antibiotic completely spikes the blood concentration of the allergy drug. It creates this massive, entirely unintended surge in drug exposure.
And that brings us to Section 5, Metabolism and Enzymes. Where do these shipping breakdowns actually happen?
They mostly happen in the metabolism phase. When analyzing the enzymes responsible for phase 1 metabolism, there's one massive standout, CYP3A4. That single enzyme handles the vast majority of drug metabolism in the human body. Because so many different medications have to pass through this specific pathway to get processed, CYP3A4 becomes the ultimate biological bottleneck. If one drug comes in and blocks this enzyme, every other drug waiting in line is just going to back up into the bloodstream.
To prevent these kinds of disasters, scientists use in vitro assays to figure out a perpetrator drug's exact ability to inhibit those vital enzymes. They measure this as the IC50, which is just the concentration needed to inhibit 50% of the enzyme's normal activity. By pinpointing a drug's IC50, researchers can mathematically predict if a new medication is going to cause a dangerous metabolic traffic jam long before it ever hits pharmacy shelves.
So what happens when this goes wrong in the real world? Well, let's look at a historically lethal example involving the antihistamine Hisminol. Hisminol was designed to be metabolized right at our big bottleneck enzyme, CYP3A4. But when patients took it alongside erythromycin, which we now know is a powerful CYP3A4 inhibitor, the Hisminol backed up in their blood. This massive metabolic traffic jam allowed the antihistamine to travel straight to the heart, where it literally started blocking vital hERG potassium channels in cardiac cells.
The terrifying result of that cellular blockade is a prolonged QT interval on an EKG. When comparing that delayed electrical rhythm to a normal heartbeat, it is a massive red flag. Why? Because it can trigger a deadly arrhythmia called torsade de pointes, which can rapidly devolve into sudden cardiac arrest and tragic, unexpected death. And all of this stems from a simple, unseen drug interaction.
So the big takeaway from this explainer is that we absolutely must respect the chemistry happening inside of us every single day. We've just seen how clashing actions and enzymatic traffic jams can turn helpful medicines into severe hazards. With millions of potential drug combinations out there, it really makes you wonder, what unseen interactions might be sitting quietly in your own medicine cabinet right now? Always double-check your combos with a professional, because there's a whole invisible factory working away inside you. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.